Is this right? Am I on? I feel like I'm on. It seems on. Yes. Okay. Okay. We did it. We're live. Yes. Wait, where's the chat? Okay. It's been a while. Yeah, yes, I'm on. Okay, hello everybody. Hello everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to my live stream. Um this is my live stream. Hopefully you're in the right place. Not somebody else's live stream. Let's see. It's been a while. It's been a while since I did live streaming. I went to RailsConf, and then I went to Ruby Kaigi, and both of them were really, really fun. And now I am back home and doing a live stream today. So we're gonna do the live stream. Let's start it. I'm gonna start the slides. Yes, slides, keynote. Keynote view. Yes, and as always, remember everybody, like, if you have any questions while I'm like talking about stuff, feel free to ask. Like, I will answer any questions you have. Also, for those of you that are watching the recording after this, put any questions in the comments. Happy to answer questions in the comments too. So, all right, this month we're gonna do an intro to hacking on CRuby. I've got a guest today, Matheus Richard, and we're going to hack on CRuby together. But first, I'm going to go through some slides, give kind of a basic intro to CRuby source code. So let's do it. Happy Friday, everybody! We did it. End of the week. Yes. Last time we did YJIT hacking, and this time, yes. Patrick is asking, will this be recorded? It is absolutely being recorded as we speak. It is being recorded live. So last time we did YJIT hacking. This time we're going to do CRuby hacking. Actually, I went to Brazil for Tropical RB, and I met Matheus there, and he suggested that we do that I do like an intro to hacking on CRuby, and I thought that was a great idea. So that's why we're doing it this month, and the point of that is that I absolutely take requests. So if there's anything you want me to hack on or explain in a live stream, I'm happy to do it. Just leave a suggestion in the comments or whatever, or email me. Whatever you want to do. All right, so today we're gonna do getting started with CRuby. The first thing I'm gonna do is go over an overview of CRuby, like all the different components. Specifically, like, what are all of these files that are in the repository. After that, we're going to go through like a basic build process, like how to get Ruby building from source. Then we're going to take a look at primitive functions. So these are functions that are built into Ruby, but they're defined in Ruby, and I'll be a little bit more specific about that later in the slides. After that, I'm going to bring on Matheus, and then we're going to do some hacking on primitive functions. So first off, an overview of CRuby. I just want to give an overview of CRuby so that we kind of know how it works. And the reason I think this is helpful is because if you know how the interpreter works, like, you can more easily find stuff in the source code. Oh, wow. Johnny Lee says that they've tried building Ruby with ZigCC. That is awesome. I want to do that. That's a great idea. Anyway, so I want to give an overview of CRuby, like the different components of CRuby, because if you have those in your in your mind, it's much easier to find stuff in the source code. So here's like a breakdown of the different components in CRuby. I'm not including the JIT compiler in this kind of map here. We discussed the JIT compiler last month, so like watch that live stream. But this is everything except for the JIT compiler. So we have like basically what I kind of think of as 5 different components: parser, compiler, interpreter. Which is, interpreter is another name for the virtual machine. So we typically call it an interpreter because it interprets byte codes. We have built-in classes and external libraries. So let's take a look at kind of a sample program. So here's like just a sample Ruby program. In this program, like we have various things going on. We're just reading a file, and then after we read a file, we like dump all of the objects that are in the heap. Now, when we're running this program, the first thing that happens, like when we do Ruby on that test program, is the parser converts the Ruby code into an abstract syntax tree. So that's our very first component. So we'll convert the source code into an AST. After it's converted into an AST, the compiler will take that AST and it'll convert that AST into bytecode. And once it's converted the AST into bytecode, it throws away the AST. So for the life of the process, the AST and the bytecode are ephemeral data structures. So the bytecode will actually be thrown away as well when the process exits. Side note, like one thing that Bootsnap does, if you're familiar with the Bootsnap gem, it'll actually take that bytecode and save it off to the side, so you can kind of like cache that and make your startup a little bit faster. But this, just for normal, like running a normal Ruby program, these are both ephemeral data. So our bytecode is executed by the interpreter. So this interpreter will look at the bytecode and it'll run through all of it and actually run your program. Now we have like kind of a constant here, this file constant. Oh, I think the cat wants down. Okay, here you go. Sorry, we got a little cat break here. All right. So we're referencing a file constant, and these file constants are what I like to call, or these constants are what I like to call built-in classes. You can think of them as like a class that you can use, but it doesn't, like, you don't have to require anything. So when you use file, you don't have to require anything. It's just there automatically. So I consider that to be a built-in class. Now we have other things that ship with Ruby as well. For example, this object space here. Object space, you do have to require it. So you have to do require object space, but it ships with Ruby. So I consider this to be like an external library. And there's actually two kinds of external libraries. Ones that ship as gems and ones that ship in the X directory. Oh, Johnny Lee is asking, bytecode over DRB in the future? I love DRB. Is bytecode as brittle as Marshall has been historically? Yes. Yes, it is brittle. In fact, we'll look at, yes. I don't think you can ship it over the wire. Well, it depends on the bytecode, but I don't think all bytecode is portable. Maybe. Let's say a maybe on that one. But I think it's an interesting idea. Interesting/fun idea, if not dangerous. All right, so what are we looking at? What are we looking at now here? I forget these slides. Let's see. Ruby's components. Right. So the parser is almost entirely in parse.y. So that is our parser. It is, you think, oh, it's only in one file. Well, that file is also 16,000 lines, so it's quite a large file. Actually, Ruby ships with two different parsers, the parse.y parser and the prism parser. So our normal parser is in parse.y, and the prism parser is in the prism directory, and you can look in there for a bunch of different files. So if you're working on prism, you'll look in the prism folder. If you're working on the upstream or the normal parser, it's in parse.y. The compiler, it is in compile.c. It's just the one file, very simple, only 14,000 lines long. Prism also has its own compiler. So like the Prism compiler is in prismcompile.c, and it is only about 10,000 lines long. Don't let that fool you though. Like prismcompile.c uses functions that are in compile.c, so they share code. Johnny Lee's asking, does mini-Ruby use parse.y? Yes, it does. But you can tell mini-Ruby to use Prism as well if you give it a command line argument. Let's see. Next thing. Interpreter. The interpreter is defined mostly in VM underscore files. So everything that's like VM underscore blah, it has to do with the interpreter. Also, there's one special file, insns.def. Actually, the virtual machine is generated. So as part of the build process, we generate that virtual machine, and it's generated from the file insns.def. So we use that file to generate the VM. Oh, right, I made a little arrow for that. So the VM and slash interpreter is generated from this particular file, and the generated files all end in .inc. So if you look for these files called .inc files, those are the generated files, and those are actually C code. So if you go take a look at that file, it's C code that's been generated from that one insns.def file. Built-in classes, those are pretty easy to like kind of think about. If you think about the class that you want to deal with, for example, like the file class, well, it's going to be defined in file.c. Or the IO class, it's defined in IO.c. Numeric is defined in numeric.c, etc. But we define these classes both in C and in Ruby. So there's an IO.c as well as an IO.rb. So all of the Ruby definitions are in the RB file, and of course all the C definitions are in the C file. External libraries, those are all underneath the ext folder. So anything that you have to require, for example, object space or ERB or whatever, those are in the ext folder, so you can find all of those in there. So let's move on to building Ruby. This is kind of the process for building Ruby from source. Of course, all we do is we just clone it from GitHub. Once we've cloned it from GitHub, you need to run the autogen sh file, and this generates the configure script. Then I like to do out of source or out of tree builds, so I'll make a build folder. And then from the build folder, I'll run the configure script. And then after we run the configure script, that creates the make files, and then we just run make to do the compilation. Stefani is asking, how is it decided which classes should be built in C versus built in Ruby? That's a really great question. If we can define it in Ruby and it's as fast or faster than the C implementation, then we'll define it in Ruby. If it's slower, then we'll define it in C. So it's mainly based on speed. And in fact, today, what we're going to do is we're going to try taking one of the functions defined in C, and moving it into Ruby. Okay, so I want to give a few development pro tips when you're working on CRuby. First off, run make-j. The -j flag builds everything in parallel. It'll use all of your processors, so it speeds everything up. I develop with Vim, so for me, ctags is essential. Let's see. How does Johnny Lee is asking, how does CRuby bytecode differ from mruby? I'm not familiar with mruby's bytecode, but they're completely different VMs, so I'd expect that they're like quite different, but I don't know for sure. And John Wolf, yes, I am using comic code. So I use Vim. So for me, ctags is essential. Ctags basically creates an index of all the code in your project, and it lets you like jump to definitions and stuff very quickly. I'm sure that there are ctags extensions for VS Code. There absolutely must be. So if you're using VS Code for development, look into that. The configure script takes tons of different flags, and that's really hard for me to remember. I don't remember all the different flags that it takes. So what I like to do is I keep shell scripts for the different types of builds that I like to do. So for example, I like to do a debug builds for debugging. So I have a special shell script that does debug builds, and I have a bunch of different shell scripts for different configuration options. So running tests is like this. You just use the test all make target. So this will run all the tests for Ruby, and if you do -j and give it a number of CPUs, it'll run all the tests in parallel. If you want to run just one test, you can provide it with an environment variable, this tests environment variable, so you can specify one particular file to run. Finally, like if you want to pass any flags to the test runner, you do it via the test opts flag. Yes, I'm using fish shell. Let's see. Ruby versus mini Ruby. So like this is another development pro tip. When we're making changes to Ruby, many times we don't need to compile the whole thing. Like, so for example, if we're moving a function from C into Ruby, we don't particularly care about building the external libraries. Mini Ruby is everything except for the external libraries. So you can use, as long as you're just testing like language level features, you can just build mini Ruby and you don't have to build the full Ruby, so it can save you some time. So mini Ruby's components are basically all the same as Ruby's components, except for the external libraries. So if you don't need to test any external libraries, then just like build mini Ruby. So you can build mini Ruby only by doing like make-j mini Ruby, and that'll only build the mini Ruby program. Actually, an interesting thing is that building Ruby uses mini Ruby as a bootstrap. So we build mini Ruby first, and then we use mini Ruby to build the full Ruby. So part of the full Ruby build process requires like the Ruby language itself. So the next thing I want to talk about is primitive functions. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but Ruby is made out of Ruby. So we define some classes. We define some of the core classes in Ruby. So for example, like nil2i is defined in Ruby. And this is the implementation of nil2i. And we can see like if we use Ruby VM instruction sequence, we can actually disassemble the 2i, like we can disassemble that 2i method. So you can see here it's just a regular Ruby method that's executed by the virtual machine. Some functions you'll see, like if you go read through those .rb files, you'll see that some of them reference this like primitive constant. So here, for example, we have array.shuffleBang, and this shuffle method, it calls primitive.rb array shufflebang, and then it passes in the random value. Now this primitive constant it's an internal constant, and this constant is only available during the build time, like Ruby's build time. So like if you try to reference primitive in your normal Ruby, like your normal Ruby code, it won't exist. You won't see it. And what this constant is used for is it emits special instructions. So during the compilation process, the Ruby code compilation process, we make modifications to the compiler. The compiler has a special mode where it's like, oh, I'm compiling like internal Ruby code. And when it's compiling internal Ruby code, when it sees that primitive constant, it's going to do something special. So what it does here is it emits yeah, so Ruby does have comp time, it's true. So it emits a bytecode that looks like this. The special thing in this bytecode is the one sequence on line 9. It says it's a mouthful, opt invoke built-in delegate leave. So it knows to emit this particular bytecode because it sees this primitive.blah code. So like let's compare, like let's maybe write class Aaron, and we're going to have a shufflebang method on Aaron, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to do primitive.rb array shufflebang. So if we define a method like that, I'm going to compare the bytecode from this method to the bytecode from the array method, and they look like this. Don't worry, like it's a lot of stuff to read. I'm going to highlight the difference. The main difference is that the array shuffle uses this opt invoke built-in delegate leave, whereas the Aaron shuffle will use opt send without block. So these primitive instructions are only available for built-in classes like file. Mini Ruby. Johnny Lee is saying mini Ruby plus primitive is fiddle for the Ruby VM. That is exactly correct. That is absolutely 100% how this is working. And it's also why I was saying like bytecode might not be portable, because the bytecode points at, it actually has a function pointer directly embedded into the bytecode, so it'll jump to that function pointer. We support, like, if I remember correctly, Ruby VM instruction sequence dump will correctly dump those function pointers, and load will correctly resolve them. So it seems possible to send those over the wire and do like what we were kind of talking about, but that's getting into the weeds here. But anyway, yes, that mini Ruby plus primitive is exactly fiddle for the Ruby VM. That's a great analogy. So primitive instructions call C functions. So in this particular example, we have primitive RB array shuffle bang. This actually calls a function called RB array shuffle bang. So that's all this does. We emit a special instruction that calls a C function. But like, why? What is the point of these instructions? Like, array shuffle used to be implemented as a C function, and when it was implemented as a C function, we would just call that one function. But now that it's a Ruby function, we have two functions. We're calling the Ruby function, and then we're turning around and calling a C function. So like, why would we do this? It seems like we had one function would be faster than two. So what is the deal? The reason we're doing this is that we can actually call these C functions faster. So for example, this RB array shuffle bang method, when we call that function, we don't have to push a stack frame, for example. Juan is asking, is primitive like a proxy? It's not a proxy at all. It's really just a it's a way to indicate to the compiler that we need to emit special bytecode, like very special bytecode. So when we have this special bytecode, we know that we don't have to push a frame, for example. The other advantage that we get is we can have fewer allocations. So when Ruby calls into a C function, if you pass keyword arguments, for example, we have to actually take those keyword arguments and convert them into a hash and pass them to the C function, because C doesn't have a concept of keyword arguments. It only has positional arguments. So we have to convert that into a hash and pass that as basically a positional argument. So for example, like let's say we do file.open and then we do like gets on it and we pass chomp true. In this case, we'll actually, oops. Oh, did I do it right? Yeah, okay. In this case, we'll actually allocate a hash to convert chomp true in, like we have to convert that into a hash so that we can pass it to C. We can actually measure that. So like, let's say we measure the total allocations for this thing. Is it showing those allocations? Yes, it is. Great. So each time we call this function, we'll allocate three objects. So you might expect like, hey, when I do a gets, it's only going to allocate the string that we pulled out of the file, but actually it's allocating a hash, and I think probably an array as well as the string. So we actually have three allocations. If we convert it to Ruby and then call into a C function, we can eliminate those two allocations, and that's what we're going to try to do today. So I'm going to welcome Matheus to the stream. Hello,
Hey.
are you there?
I am here.
Oh, hello, how are you?
Hey everyone. Hey Aaron. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the live stream, Matheus. We met at Tropical RB. When was that? 2 months
Right.
ago?
Yeah, beginning of April.
Beginning
So
of
yeah,
April?
almost a
Yeah,
month.
yeah. You were giving a talk about parallelism and concurrency in Ruby.
Exactly. Yeah, and mostly focused on Rails, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a great talk. I remember it was a lot of fun. How long have you been a Rubyist?
Uh, Let me do some math. I think the first time I touched Ruby was about 8 years ago.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
Eight.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. You're working at Thoughtbot now, right?
Yeah, I've been
Nice,
working there for almost 3 years now.
nice. That's awesome. I love Thoughtbot. Great company. Um, so have you ever done any hacking on CRuby before?
Uh, Not a lot. I have downloaded the code base before. I've read a little bit. I've contributed to some documentation, which was easier just to find stuff. So I've been around a little bit. I've checked Prism a little bit as
Yeah.
well, but I haven't added no behaviors.
Nice. Okay. Well, good. So we'll have some fresh eyes and good questions
Yeah,
while we're hacking on this. Um, I don't know what other questions to ask you. I guess should we get started hacking? What do you think?
yeah, I'm excited to do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Um, let's see.
Oh, one thing that I want to ask,
Yes.
because we were talking about primitive,
Yeah.
and it feels like there's now three ways to define a function in Ruby. We can define it directly in C. We can use primitive, but we could also write the whole thing in Ruby itself,
Yes.
like you show with nil to
Yep.
I. So and now with Byte, it becomes even harder to decide which one is faster because you have to test all of those three options.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. So we usually only use the like my like general rule of thumb is if we can define it completely like purely in Ruby, we should do it purely in Ruby. We only fall back to primitive if there's something like some kind of like bit in C or some kind of function that we need to interface with in C.
Mm.
Then we use primitive. So ideally, we write as much of the function as possible in Ruby. Uh, and I think we're gonna try to do that with gets today.
Is it possible to write some of the function in Ruby and then call to primitive in part of it, or does it have to be
Yes.
all inside primitive?
No. All like it's absolutely. We write some of it in primitive. We write some of it in primitive, and then, or excuse me, we write some of it in Ruby, and then like call to primitive. So like that's actually how we eliminate those like hash and array allocations. Is that
Hmm.
like parameter handling is done completely inside of Ruby, and then those parameters are converted into local variables for the body of the method, and then we just pass those local variables as positional parameters. And if you read through some of the RB files, you'll see like some of them are kind of complex, like before they actually call primitive. So yeah, definitely like
Hmm.
implement as much as you can in Ruby, and then do the minimum amount. Like if you have to do primitive stuff, do the minimum amount in primitive. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep.
Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna hide Keynote and then switch us over to us and the desktop. Nice. There we are. The dreams of Rubinius and Truffle Ruby are belong to us. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna do. I've already got a build here going. Uh, so we're not gonna like I discussed that in the slides, so we're not going to go through all of it, and we only have like 30 minutes to hopefully get this working. So let's do it. We're going to do what we're going to do io.gets. So let's do file. Oh my gosh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to copy paste this from Keynote because I seem actually no. Must have this around. Oh geez. Cat test out. Nope. Oh my
Oops.
gosh. Okay, fine. Let's copy paste from Keynote because I am lazy. Do. We're just gonna grab this. Oh, great. Keynote. Thank you, Keynote. All right, hide that. Speedrunning Ruby internals at any percent. Yes. The pressure is on. I feel the pressure. Okay, we've got this. We've got this going. Okay, So this is the function we want to implement. We're gonna implement f.gets, or file io.gets. So this gets method, I believe, is on IO. I think it's on IO, so it should be defined in the io.c file. Let's take a look. It is. Okay, so files, like when we look in the io.c or any of those class, like built-in class .c files, the thing that I always look for is rb define method. So that's how you define the method in C. And one like trick is that this last parameter here is the arity of the function. So like if it's 0, that means there's 0 parameters. If there's 1, it means there's 1 parameter, etc., etc. But -1 means like a variable number of parameters. And those functions that have a variable number of parameters, those are the ones that will be like, those are the ones that are probably going to allocate extra stuff. Because like they have to deal with the complexity of like, do I have a parameter or not, right? So like f.gets, it optionally takes chomp : true, right?
If you have like multiple positional arguments, like variable positional arguments,
Yeah, it can
would
do.
that be -1?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. So anytime you're dealing with any optional arguments, it's gonna be -1. So if you're looking for stuff, like if you want to like take some stuff in Ruby, like take some methods in C and convert them into Ruby, my suggestion is to like look for ones that use -1 arity and convert those, because those are likely to be more expensive in C. So we're gonna do that here. So let's just do it. I think there's an io.rb already. Yeah, there is. Look at that. And let's see. Patrick is asking, are blocks considered here if the function takes a block? Blocks don't show up in the arity. You'll see like, I think rb yield, something like that. Those ones you definitely want to convert to Ruby as well, because like yielding from C is not cheap. So yeah, look for those too. Let's just copy readline here. We're gonna do readline. And what are we doing? We're doing gets, right?
Gets.
Gets.
Yeah.
And gets only takes one possible parameter, the chomp, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And chomp, it defaults to false, right?
Yes. Looks like gets has more parameters.
Oh goodness, you're right. Yeah, look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh wow,
There's
look at this.
at least 3
Separator,
different
limit, chomp.
types.
Actually, the signature looks exactly the same as a read line, so let's just steal that one. Great. And then what does it actually do? What does it do? It says like
returns a line from the string.
Yeah, it calls RBIO getline. Okay. So what we want to do is we probably want to do like IO call a function that's like IO getline, like that. So this IO getline function, it doesn't exist right now. We're gonna just steal from IO readline because that seems, because I'm lazy.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
Yes, exactly. So when you're defining these these primitive functions, it's a little bit different than the normal C API. They take an execution context, which is the context of the virtual machine itself, and then they take the self, like the self object. So in this case, self would be the IO, like the IO object. And then separate, in our case, we're going to pass also separator, limit, and chomp. And this is like super duper similar to IO readline. What is the difference between gets and readline? I guess we're going to find out. Johnny Lee, this is so cool. Is the core team handling? Contributors are absolutely welcome on this. We're like, the core team is not going through these all and identifying them at all. So like, if you want a more challenging, like a little bit more challenging way to contribute, then like, absolutely do this. We'll take these. Let's see.
The doc says that readline reads a line like IO gets, but raises an error if it's at the end of the string.
Okay. Yeah, it's in the comments too. Yep. Okay, cool. So let's just like, I guess let's just make the function and then just duplicate code or whatever until we get it working. Seem okay. So let's do IO getline. And just for fun, what I'm gonna do for now is let's just like return a constant, like return a value, just to see if we can get it integrated and working. So let's just do return, I don't know, num or int to num. We'll return the number 42. And then we need to undefine gets. Not that one. That's on argf. Okay, let's delete that. And then build. Hopefully this works. Oh, look at that. It's mad because IO gets M is not used anymore. But
not used.
Yeah. That's correct. Yes, indeed. Okay, so if we print this, it should print the number 42. Nice. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, we did it. Great. We did it. We're done.
Yeah, so oh, I mean, it's working.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the num to the int to num.
Yeah.
I assume that is what's it called again? Forgot the name. The C preprocessor.
Yeah, it's a macro.
Yeah, macro. That's where I was trying to reach.
Where the heck did I put IO?
And I assume it transforms a C integer into a Ruby object.
Yes. Colin is asking me to boost my mic. I will do that. Let me know if this is okay. I turned it up a little bit. Yeah, into num. So into num is just a macro that converts a C integer into a Ruby one. That's exactly it. That's exactly right. So Ruby integers are represented differently than C integers are, and this macro just converts one to the other.
Yeah, I've seen some other different values. I think maybe there are constants like Q, nil, and
yep.
And I assume that those are similar, but the objects don't change.
Yes. Yes.
Like nil is always the same object.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So we did that. We know that this works, and we also know that we have the separator, the limit, and the chomp value. So let's go check the original, like the original implementation of gets, and then see see how we can call into it. Now that we have these values, like the separator, the limit, and the chomp, let's see like how we can actually execute this thing. And I already forgot what the function was. IO gets M.
Get that. Yeah.
So it called RBIO getline, and that did what? Okay. Prepare getline args. RBIO getline. Oh, this looks interesting. RBIO getline 1. What's RS? Yeah. RS must be the dollar slash, like the
yeah.
I think maybe we can just call this RBIO getline 1, maybe.
Is that prepare args important?
I don't think so. So it I think the prepare args, let's find that. So this prepare args is taking the argc and the argv. So remember, we have to pass an array of junk in. So I think it's scanning through all that and figuring out like, oh, what is the default, like what is the default line separator? What is the, like, all that junk. But we did that in Ruby already, and we're passing it in. So I think we can just call this. I think we can just call this thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It creates a struct right before, and then it figures out the arguments from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we can just. I think we can just call it. So let's do that. But this is not. We're gonna do this, but I think there is still a bug. Let's do
Well, at least you know about it.
Okay. What did I do wrong?
Args.
Oh, right. Great job, Aaron. Really good at copy paste here. Let's see.
In this case, we don't need the execution context to be used.
No, we don't need the execution context. Let's see. What does this actually want? Okay, their value. Okay, so our signature is different. It wants a long for the limit, so we're gonna have to do.
Is it safe just to convert here?
Yeah, we can convert it, but we need to convert. Like I forget the macro. There's like a macro. We have the limit as a value, but we need to convert it into a long, and it's like num to. Let's use C tags. Come on, C tags. Num to long, I think, is correct. Yes. Yep.
There you go.
There we go.
Is it guaranteed that it will be a number at this point, or will this macro handle like other kinds of objects?
Yeah, this macro will handle other objects, and it'll raise exceptions too. So if you pass in a non-integer value, it'll raise an exception.
Cool.
So then we need to do. Let's see. Limit was a long chomp as an int. Interesting. We pass it in as a Boolean, right? What did we do down here?
I think so.
Oh, I bet we need to do all this junk too. Oh, wow. Look at this. IO readline is also using IO getline.
Because it's basically the same thing, but with an exception at the end.
Wait a minute. Does this not do an EOF? Does not do an EOF error?
You mean gets?
No, readline. Wait a minute. This is like if nilp line, then we raise an EOF.
Yeah.
We raise an EOF error. What was the difference? Gets doesn't raise an error?
Yeah, I think that's the whole difference.
Oh, okay. So we can probably just like
reuse all of this.
Just reuse all of this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
I thought you were intentionally building it differently just to show something.
Look, I'm lazy. Let's do that. Let's refactor this a little bit.
Because this was my first thought. Like, let's just move all of this into a function and have one of them.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so we'll keep this one the same. What do we want to do? We want a third function that we call to, right? So let's just do like static value. I don't know. Give me a name here. We're gonna get a line, but it's not gonna raise an exception. It's just like just IO get.
Safe getline. I don't know. Is that a pattern in the CRuby code base for functions that raise?
There's no pattern here, dude.
Because we, at least in the Ruby side, generally in Rails, there's the bank versions of the methods.
Yeah.
And in Rust, they call like unsafe something.
Horse is saying if you want to reduce the copy paste factor, you could just implement IO readline in Ruby by calling IO gets. Yes! Dang, I like that. Absolutely. Uh-oh. Echo? Am I echoing? Let me turn down a little bit. Okay. I really like that suggestion, Horse. That is a great suggestion. But we'll do it in C first and then like refactor it later, but that's a great idea. Echoes on Matheus. Okay. You're echoing, Matheus. Don't echo too much.
I'll try to.
Okay.
I'll try to.
All right, let's pull this code up into getline. And then just do that, and we'll always return line here, return line. And then down here, we're just gonna do like a value line equals IO getline, right? IO getline, yeah, I can't. My memory is that short, yes. IO set lim chomp. Okay, so this one, it maintains the same behavior that if it gets a nil line, it raises an EOF error, otherwise it returns the line. And then here, this one just like returns the line no matter what. I think this is good. Let's try running this. Oh, not here. Okay, and then, yeah, we'll just print it. Okay, that seems to work.
Yeah. Can you do like, yeah, there you go.
Like, let's do like 20 times. So hopefully some of these will just return nils.
Yeah, the few, yeah, there you go.
Nice, awesome. Let's check if there's any gets tests in Ruby. Hopefully okay. IO console, I'm not excited about that. Test IO wait.
Maybe on file.
Yeah. Test IO. Here we go. Yeah, that seems good. Let's run the IO tests.
Let's see how bad this is.
I don't know. So make test all tests equals / Ruby / this thing.
Raise your hand, send us good energy.
Test gets limit extra arg. Interesting. Type error expected, but nothing was raised. All right, let's take a look at that. Huh. Okay, line 339.
This was just one.
339. Type error gets 3, nil.
What's the second argument again?
I don't remember.
Limit, I guess.
Really? Limit?
Yes, the first one is the separator and then limit.
Limit? Okay, so wait. Yeah. Okay. So separator then limit, and if a limit is nil, it's supposed to be a type error? Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Let's do f.gets 3, nil. What the heck is the first one? Limit? What is the limit?
Yeah,
Number of bytes or? No, separate. I'm very confused by these parameters. Get 3?
That would be 3 lines. No, that's weird.
This is really weird.
Because the separator would be 3 in this case.
I assume it's a limit and then like chomp something. That's so weird. Okay. All right.
I'm reading the docs for gets because they are longer than for readline.
Okay.
With only string arguments, separator given returns the next line. No.
I mean, I think we can make it. Like, I think we can make it raise an exception, but.
But shouldn't readline be doing this already?
So that's the arg parsing C function did more complex than expected. Yes. Yes. Way more complex than expected. Yeah, I feel like so this stuff we could probably convert to Ruby. Excuse me, convert to Ruby. But what I guess let's look at what would come into so in this case, separator is going to be set to 3. Limit is going to
It's
be
the
set
number
to
of bytes
nil.
in the line.
Really?
Yeah, the integer argument for limit is the limits the number of bytes in the line.
Okay. Okay. So here we're saying if
With yeah, if you want to read the docs, there's a section when you pass both arguments.
okay.
With arguments separator in limit given, it combines the two behaviors. That's returns the next line as determined by line separator or
Okay.
nil, if none, but returns no more bytes than are allowed by the limit,
By the limit. Okay. Okay. I'm
which I guess makes sense.
reading through here. It's like okay, if let's walk through this. So we pass in this particular call, the sep value is going to be set to 3, limit is going to be set to nil. Okay. Wow. Wow. I think
And I think if you pass nil, it means no limit. Is that it? Like read
yeah.
the whole line.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to detect, like, did you pass in a separator that's actually a number and is meant to be the limit? This is so complicated. This is, like, really, really complicated. If sep is not nil and not a string, then sep uses a default separator and the value is used as limit. Yep. Correct. So we need to, like, I guess we need to detect whether or not limit has actually been set. Like, because this is, so this is not an exception. Correct?
Which is weird.
Yeah, very weird. So we have to do, I think we have to do, oh crap.
Should they be different? I mean, that's one question, but
Yeah.
maybe not for this this
I mean, this is
time.
the test. Horse is saying this was probably written before keyword arguments existed. That is absolutely correct. So there's a pattern. I forget what the pattern is. It's like we can do to detect whether or not something is default. Is there one in here? No. Okay. So we'll assign this equal to like
New object.
Yeah, I don't want to do a new
Yeah, I mean
object.
that's a one way of doing it, but it's very heavy-handed.
Yeah, there's a separate way to do it where you can basically set an extra local, so you can be like I don't know, limit set
Oh,
equals,
yeah.
but I forget what that, I can't remember what that pattern is.
I think I've seen this.
Come on, live stream chat. Tell me how to fix this. How can I find this? I can't remember this freaking pattern. It's not this. What is it? What is it? It's my mind
I'll
is
try
going.
to search.
Something like that.
Oh, there you go. Here you go. If we close now, true.
N equals array equals false. There we go. So limit equals
parentheses and then limit set.
Okay, so how the heck does this work? So if limit is
if limit set, is there a way for limit set not to be defined? Should it be the other way
should
around?
should it be defined? Uh,
Because if someone passes a limit, then we won't execute this. So limit set, will it be nil or
it'll
will it be
be
undefined local variable?
it'll be nil. So if limit set is nil, then
Then we passed.
so yeah. So we say like I don't know, if limit set if this is nil,
Mm-hmm.
then we probably want to raise our type error.
Is that it?
I think that's right. If limit set is nil and limit
And yeah,
is nil, then we want to raise
okay.
our type error. But I think we might have to be more specific than that, like separator.
Yeah, because separator
It's
might,
only if
yeah.
separator is a number, I think, right? Let's run our tests. Oops. I mean, if this passes, I think we just ship it. Oh. No implicit conversion of false into integer. Okay. Else. The heck do we want to do here? Limit. So
It was nil by default, right?
Yes. So if limit set is nil, else
Should we
limit
set limit to
or
nil?
equals nil. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Boy, this feels super hacky.
Definitely. But there's a chance that we are not doing the right thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like.
Oh, it passed. Ship it. I was hoping it wouldn't pass, so we don't keep it.
Scott Holden says limit equals limit set equals false semicolon nil. Let's check that. Let's try that. Okay. Nil. All right.
Oh.
Okay. Praying, please test pass. Oh my gosh, Scott, you're the best. This is way better. Yay, we did it. This is awesome. Okay, great. So, let's delete that one function. Let's see. What did we delete? We want to get rid of IO gets M, right? Yeah, that pattern. Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. That pattern is wild. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just delete this D10J. Deleted. Great. We did it. Make.
And in the case of when we use primitive, we have to move the documentation for the primitive. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that right now, but yeah, we have to move. So when we're doing this, like, since we deleted that function, we gotta pull all this. Let's just do it. Whatever. It's fine, right? We got a couple minutes. 1 minute. Boop. Hey, nice. Few red lines, red thingies, but that's fine. Whatever. Looks good. Nice. We did it. All right. We moved a function. We were able to move a function from C into Ruby. And that's it. I'll commit this and push up send a pull request, but I'm not sure if we'll go with this cuz like I'm not super pleased with this. I'm not 100% sure this is all cases, you know? Also, I want to do that refactoring that Horst was suggesting. Like, it seems like we could write one completely. We could write it completely in Ruby and not have this secondary primitive call. Like we'll have read line call get line and then just raise an exception if it gets a nil, right?
Right.
Then we
Exactly.
don't. Then we can just completely get rid of that one function. So all right, I'm gonna put you back on here. Matheus, thank you for coming on today. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun pairing with you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
This was exciting.
Yeah, it was a really good time. I'm glad we were able to. I'm glad we were able to convert some C into Ruby.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. We did it. Less C in the Ruby code base. It makes me happy. All right. So thank you for coming on. I'm gonna go back to the keynote now and then wrap this up for today. Let's see. Keynote. Am I playing Keynote? No. Come on. Let's play. Okay, we did that. So thank you all. Thank you everybody for joining me. I'm not gonna stream next month. I'm gonna pick up again in July. So I don't know what to do. I don't know what to talk about in July. I was thinking about like maybe either doing some profiling on YJIT or hacking on TenderJIT, or I don't know, something like that. If you have any suggestions, let me know, please. Thank you all so much for coming. I had a really great time, and I hope you all have a good Friday and a good weekend. Bye, everybody.